The night was heavy with silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes you feel the weight of the world. In a small town outside Chicago, a man named David sat alone on a park bench, his hands trembling as he clutched a worn photograph. It was of his late wife, Sarah, whose smile had once been the anchor of his life. Since her passing, he had drifted, lost in grief, disconnected from the world, and unsure if kindness or humanity still had a place in his life. David wasn't the only one carrying invisible burdens. Across the street, Maria, a single mother of two, worked late shifts at the diner, her eyes tired but her spirit unbroken. She had no family nearby, no safety net, only the determination to keep her children fed and hopeful. And then there was James, a young man who had grown up in foster care, hardened by rejection but secretly yearning for connection. Three strangers, each carrying their own scars, unaware that fate was about to weave their lives together. It began with a storm. The sky cracked open, rain pouring down in sheets, flooding the streets. David, still on the bench, noticed Maria struggling to carry her sleeping daughter while her son cried from the cold. Without thinking, he stood, removed his coat, and wrapped it around the boy. Maria looked at him, startled, but saw in his eyes a sincerity that needed no words. James, who had been watching from the diner window, rushed out to help. He grabbed an umbrella from the counter and held it over Maria and her children. For the first time in years, he felt useful, needed. The three of them huddled together under the storm, strangers bound by necessity, but something deeper was forming, a spark of humanity. The storm worsened, knocking out power across the neighborhood. The diner became a refuge, its dim candlelight casting shadows of resilience. David, Maria, and James worked together, serving coffee, comforting frightened children, and offering blankets to the elderly who stumbled in. What began as survival slowly transformed into something extraordinary. David, who had lost faith in life, found himself smiling again as Maria's daughter tugged at his sleeve, asking him to tell a story. He spoke of Sarah, not as a memory of loss, but as a symbol of kindness. Maria, exhausted yet grateful, realized that even in her struggles, she wasn't alone. And James, who had always felt unwanted, discovered that humanity wasn't about bloodlines, it was about choosing to care. The emotional climax came when an elderly man collapsed from exhaustion. Panic rippled through the diner, but David knelt beside him, holding his hand, whispering words of comfort. Maria called for help, and James ran into the storm to flag down an ambulance. In that moment, fear gave way to courage, and despair gave way to unity. By dawn, the storm had passed. The diner was quiet, but the people inside were forever changed. David no longer felt alone, Maria no longer felt invisible, James no longer felt unwanted. They had discovered the power of humanity not in grand gestures, but in small acts of kindness that ripple outward, touching lives in ways unseen. Weeks later, the three continued to meet at the diner. They became family, not by blood, but by choice. David read bedtime stories to Maria's children, Maria cooked meals for all of them, and James found purpose in helping others. Their lives, once fractured, had been stitched together by selflessness. The story of that storm spread through the town, reminding everyone that kindness is contagious, that humanity is strongest when shared. And for readers across the USA, it became a reminder that even in the darkest nights, one act of compassion,